Thank you very much for attending the Innovation for Democracy Café today. I'm the host of today's event. My name is Ya-wei Chou. I'm the Program Manager of Global Innovation Hub of FNF in Taipei. So today we're going to talk about AI. So I believe many of you might probably are using or have used ChatGPT and other kinds of generative AI tools. So you know how convenient it could be. But you might also read some news reports about the potential risk of such AI tools. But we also feel that there's not so much discussion on how we can turn such AI tools into a force to promote or advance democracy, for example, using AI to combat disinformation. So that's why we think the discussion today is very important, because we feel that the democracy advocates around the world, they are in dire need of acquiring more information and knowledge about technology, because the authoritarian regimes, their technology capacity are growing very fast. And also, I think the discussion today can help to remind us when there's a new technology is formed, it's very important to mainstream the discussions about its implication to democracy and human rights. So we know how to harness such technology, but not suppress the opportunity of innovation. So that's why today we invite two experts here, and we are going to learn from them. The first guest is Dr. David Corney. He is an expert who dedicates himself to natural language processing and AI for more than 25 years. And he contributed his talents to Full-Fact AI, a UK-based independent fact-check organization who has been providing full-fact AI and other technology to global civil society to help them to combat disinformation. Our pleasure to have you here, Dr. Corney. And the second guest is Mr. Ya-wei Chou. He is the founder of Taiwan AI Labs. He leads Taiwan AI Labs not only invents technology for science or business purpose, but also for the purpose of safeguarding democracy, such as combating disinformation. For example, he initiates projects such as MEAN and Project Luton and Infodemic Information Analysis website. And he is one of the very important pioneers of Taiwan's technology development. And he is also the founder of Taiwan's biggest bulletin board system online. Our pleasure to have you here, Mr. Chou. Okay, so before we start, let me still brief you the agenda of today. So in the first 30 minutes, I will ask the two experts to share their projects and experience for around 15 minutes each. And after that, I will ask them 3 to 4 questions to help us to understand what their experience and their thinking is. And following that, we will open the floor to the audience and to accept questions from the audience. So in the final session, if you have any questions, please type your question in the chat box. Although the time is very limited, but I will do my best to guide the two experts to answer your question. So now, without further ado, let's invite Dr. Corney to share his experience with us. The floor is yours, Dr. Corney.
Thank you very much. Let me start by just sharing my slides. Hi, it's great to be here, and thank you, Ya-wei, for inviting us to talk about our work. So yes, I work at Full-Fact. Full-Fact is a UK-based charity, and we really try to campaign to improve the state of public information. And I'll talk today about the history of the organisation and the AI technology we've been developing, and our current plans to make that be more useful globally. This shows really the motivation behind everything that Full-Fact does. It's this belief that bad information ruins lives. In many different ways, it promotes hate, it damages people's health, and it also can hurt democracy. And so we think that that's a pretty important thing to try to oppose, try to improve the quality, therefore, of information available to the public, so people can make their own minds up about their decisions. We all make our decisions based on the information we have available. So the better the information we have, the better the decisions we can make. And we do this in a number of ways at Full-Fact. Perhaps the most obvious high-profile thing for a fact-checking organisation to do is to check facts. So we monitor things said by politicians, by public institutions, and by journalists, and also some social media content. And when we find content, when we find claims being made that are potentially harmful and wrong, then we'll take action, and we will try to write our own articles explaining what's been said, who said it, and put it into context, and adding to that, expert opinions, official reports, and so on. So then people reading these articles we write can then make their own minds up about who to believe. We also follow up on those fact checks, and we ask politicians and journalists in particular to correct the record. So when they get something wrong, they can retract the old statement, publish a new statement, and hopefully that way we'll reduce the spread of misinformation. We're also developing new technologies using AI and other software to try to find this bad information and when it's being repeated. And I'll go into that in much more detail later on. And also, we campaign for change. We try to identify where there are systematic problems with society, and we lobby to improve that. So we talk to people in government and in the opposition. We talk to big tech companies, especially social media companies, and try to say, look, there are these problems with misinformation, with bad information going around there, and especially as we come into elections, there's great scope for great harm to be done in any country where there is an election, partly because the deadlines often get so tight that if a bad story is spread, say the day before an election, there's no time to spend days researching it and rebutting it. So speed is of the essence. So I'll give a couple of examples of the kind of fact-check articles that we publish regularly. This is just the headings of each one. This is one from almost 3 years ago now, during the height of the COVID pandemic, when the vaccines were first being developed and almost ready to be rolled out. You may remember there was lots of misinformation around vaccine safety, and sadly there still is. But one particular angle, one particular story that was very widespread at the time was that mRNA vaccines would somehow damage your DNA, or would alter your DNA. So we spoke to some experts and clarified that, no, that's not how it works, it can't happen that way. And so we could write an explanatory article saying, here's how the vaccines work, they're safe, here's the evidence, now you go and choose, do you get vaccinated or not? That's up to you, but here's the evidence you need. Last autumn, almost a year ago now, Liz Truss became the Prime Minister of the UK, and one of her main policies during the time of rising cost of living was to put a cap on the average energy bills of households. Unfortunately, when she introduced this on various TV interviews and things, she said there's a cap on household bills. Actually, there's a cap on the average bill, which may be a small distinction, but it meant that some people would be expecting to get a certain bill at the end of the year, would actually get a much higher bill if they weren't careful about their use of electricity and gas. And this, unfortunately, because she was Prime Minister, unfortunately her claims were then repeated by other journalists, by other politicians and by journalists. And so we did quite a large study on this, and we found, I think it's about 100 repeats of this misinformation, which we then asked those politicians in particular and journalists to correct the record with some success. And more recently, our current Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, was asked about from a dentist in the NHS. And again, he got the figures kind of slightly muddled and slightly oversimplified things in a way which is quite misleading. So we could push back against that. Sadly, I think so far he's not corrected the record on that one, but we're still hoping. Very briefly, this is the team I work in. This is the 9-strong AI team at Full Fact. We have a similar sized team of journalists who do the actual fact-checking, as well, along with fundraisers and managers and PR and comms and everything else that a charity needs. So I'll give a very, very brief history of fact-checking to put things in context. The notion of separate organisations doing fact-checking rather than journalists checking their own facts goes back at least 20 years. In the US, where factcheck.org was set up. And their goal really was to monitor speeches made by politicians and debates held by politicians, especially around to elections. And when they said something wrong, factcheck.org would publish an article saying, here's what this person said, here's what is wrong, and this rebuttal would be published. And the hope was that by doing this repeatedly, that politicians would start thinking, well, if people are paying attention to what I'm saying, I better get my facts straight. And the hope was that politicians would become more honest, more careful in what they said. Sadly, that didn't quite happen, and politicians, as we know, are still liable sometimes to exaggerate truths or make up complete falsehoods. And so second-generation fact-checking was proposed by various organisations, including Full Fact, to publish an act rather than just publish. And the idea of the action could be to ask for a change, ask for a politician to correct the record, but also to identify systematic problems. Where are the sources of misinformation that repeatedly happen, and can we challenge those? Can we identify the sort of power structures and who is accountable for this misinformation? Is it Facebook? Is it the government? Is it the individual? And can we try to improve those things? And then the third generation really is where we are now, which is trying to do that kind of fact-checking and taking actions, but at the scale of the internet. We can only check each human can only check a few things at a time. We can only monitor a few news sources. Because misinformation goes global, goes through social media, through email, newsletters very quickly at a huge scale. So the question, the challenge we're now facing is, how do we do fact-checking at the internet scale? So to help us in our work, we often do speak to fact-checkers at Full Fact and elsewhere, and ask them, in the past we've asked them, how do you think technology could help you do your job better? And there's two main ways that they ask for help. One is to ask, what's the most important claim that they should be checking each day? Because it can take many hours, sometimes a few days, to write a thorough fact-check article. It means doing research, finding out what was actually said, who said it, what the context was. It's been talking to experts, checking reports, reading lots of content. And this all takes time. And if at the end of the day, the fact-checker then has the story which actually isn't very interesting, because there's nothing really to check, then they're wasted that time. So they want help with saying, what's the most important thing to be checking each day? And secondly, once they've written the fact check, how can they maximize the impact of that work? How to make sure that that's actually being read by people, not just on the website, but everywhere else? And can they find when that misinformation is being repeated and then take faster action to prevent that spread? And at the core behind these tools we've been developing is really the notion of enriching a claim. So we identify claims made in newspapers, in televised debates, radio debates, and in parliamentary debates, and social media, everywhere basically where there is words being said. And we pass the text we extract, we pass these through an AI pipeline. And this is a kind of summary of it, which I'll talk through. So in this case, a pair of sentences made by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, there's a quote there talking about access to dentists in the National Health Service, the NHS. So the first part of our pipeline here is to detect the type of claim being made. We use a BERT model, originally produced by Google a few years ago now, one of the early large language models, which we trained it to recognize 10 types of claim. So these are things like quantities. In this case, there's a number in there. This is about a particular value, so we can identify that. But we also identify things like predictions about the future as a different type of claim. And as good to know, because we normally can't check the future. It hasn't happened yet. And so by identifying predictions, we can then filter those out and remove those from consideration, leaving us with a smaller set of claims worth looking at. Move on, then we also have the topic. So we recognize about 20 fairly standard broad topics. In this case, the algorithm has recognized this sentence is about both health and politics. The next stage, or late stage, is the co-reference resolution. So co-reference is when two different words refer to the same real-world entity or person concept. In this case, the word he in the second sentence refers back to Rishi Sunak, mentioned in the first sentence. And so co-reference resolution is another AI model, basically, which recognizes that those two words are basically referring to the same thing. And so finally, we have a quotation detection algorithm, which is a different BERT model again, which has been trained to recognize the actual words that somebody is saying and who is saying them. So in this case, we take the second sentence and it recognizes that the part in quote marks is the actual quotation and that he is a speaker. But we already know that he is Rishi Sunak. So in the last box there, we can see that we recognise that the claimant is Rishi Sunak, who's the Prime Minister, and we link this to the Wikidata ID to uniquely identify that person, or in some cases, that organisation. That then gives us lots of other rich information. So, for example, we know from Wikidata that Rishi Sunak is in the Conservative Party of the UK. We know he's the Prime Minister. We know he's alive. We know he's a human being. All this kind of information comes from Wikidata, which is a great open source resource. So we're analysing all these claims through our pipeline in real time, and we then have tools to let users access that information. So the first thing we tried to do was to help fact checkers find claims worth checking. And so first of all, we created basically let them search over those enriched claims. So in this case, you see this search bar at the top, where the user, a fact checker, has typed in they want claims about inflation, where the claim type is quantity, so looking for quantitative claims rather than predictions or personal beliefs. And the group there is the political party, the Conservative Party, which is currently the government. And so beneath that, you can see the top 3 claims that were found that mention inflation, that are made by, in this case, Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak or Mr. Philp, who was in the government last year, where they are discussing inflation. So these are kind of things that a fact checker may say, yeah, I want to know what's the government saying about inflation. It's a big story. These are claims that may be worth checking. And this is a tool that is in use every day, and it can be useful to find claims. But the problem is that you need to know what you're looking for before you can start. You need to know what to search for. And so it's useful for finding wider examples of a particular story you're already investigating. But the fact checkers told us that this doesn't really help very much because they still don't know what they should be searching for in the first place. So more recently, we developed a second tool to find claims worth checking. And this is much more opinionated and gives the users actually much less choice. And instead, it just finds claims that we think are checkworthy. So in this case, it's broken down by topic. On this particular screen grab, this is showing the health topic from a couple of weeks ago now. So it's trying to find claims which are about health, which are quantitative claims, because they tend to be most easy to check, most straightforward to check, and which are making claims which are most concrete. So this list here, the top 8 claims, if you read through them, I'll go through all of them, but like the top one, for example, is quoting our National Health Service recommendation for salt intake for children and adults at various ages. And I'm sure this claim is correct, but it's kind of information that, you can imagine a busy journalist may mistype something or be exaggerating something to push a particular story about health. And so on reading this claim in a newspaper, if the figures are wrong, they may well take bad action and lead to bad health outcomes for themselves or for their children. So it's important that a fact checker look at that and say, is this plausible? It doesn't look about right. And perhaps do a quick search to scope this out and say, is this okay? Okay, that's fine. Yes, it's correct, quoting the report. But some of these checks, some of these claims here shown, may lead into more controversial subjects that do need some form of rebuttal. Some claims being taken out of context. So once the claims have been found and fact check articles have been written, which is a huge skill of the journalist, we then face the problem that people then still repeat the information which we now know to be false or misleading. And so we have a second tool now to do claim matching. So this takes the same sort of newspaper articles and TV transcripts and tries to say, is a claim being made the same as one we've already checked? Not necessarily the same word for word, but is it expressing the same meaning? So looking at synonyms, looking at paraphrasing, and so on. And so this is a screen grab from end of last year. So in bold text, the claims are claims that we've already checked. And beneath each one of those, there's 1 or 2 examples of quotes from newspaper articles or from Facebook, which appear to be on the same subject and making the same claim. The system is by no means perfect, but you can see some of these matches are quite close matches. And when there is a match, one of my colleagues can basically go straight through and email that journalist or that politician or that newspaper and say, you just said this thing, we already know that's misleading. Here's a link to our article. Please can you correct the record as soon as possible. And through using this tool, we've managed to get corrections from most, if not all, of the leading UK national newspapers and a number of politicians who have said, oh, yeah, my bad, and they correct the record very quickly, which is fantastic when that happens. So the last part of my talk, I want to talk about how we're making these tools available to other organisations. So we work quite closely with Africa Check, who have offices in South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, and Senegal. And we provide these tools for them to use, analysing their own media, their own transcripts. And in my study we did with them, a quarter of the fact check articles that they published in a 6-month period were identified using these tools. So it shows that they are doing some good. In fact, one of those checks I'm very proud of, because I was involved in it, was a mistake published in one of the manifestos from the opposition party in South Africa in the run-up to a national election. It was 2 years ago now. And the tools we had developed highlighted this being something maybe worth checking, along with many other claims. But one of the local fact checkers in South Africa could look at that and say, yeah, that figure doesn't look right. It's about water wastage in different regions in South Africa. A very important story there. And so they contacted the party and said, your manifesto making this claim, is that right? And actually, had made a mistake and published it correct. So the correct information was published in a second edition of the manifesto before the election, helping people to make up their own minds during that time. Jumping forward to earlier this year, in February, March, I think this year, there was a presidential election in Nigeria. Again, we applied our tools to a group of coalition of fact checkers across Nigeria, about 25 journalists, I think, in total. And again, it helped them basically speed up some of their checking, that they could just find the claims being made during televised debates and elsewhere that are most likely to be worth checking, and therefore produce fact check articles a little bit faster, and therefore hopefully slow the spread of misinformation more effectively. Currently, our tools, including in Nigeria and South Africa, work in English. This really is for historic reasons that most natural language processing research has been centered in the UK and in North America, and therefore it's been done in English. And this tends to be self-perpetuating. So most data sets, most models work in English, and so everyone researching that uses those models. But we're trying to fight against this. And some models do now have multilingual versions, or versions tailored to other particular languages. And so we developed a French version of our checkworthy tool, which has been tried out in Senegal in their French language media there. We'll actually cover several countries in West Africa. And we're now starting to have this work in a third language to be launched hopefully later this year. So there are various systems being used across the UK, parts of Europe, Africa, South America, and Australia. And it's being used by fact checkers, by government organisations as well, in 2 languages with more to come. So hopefully that's giving you some flavour of the work we do at Full Fact. I'll be taking questions later on and looking forward to hearing your questions then. In the meantime, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, David. This is really a fascinating presentation. I'm fascinated about how you use AI to help fact-checking organization can move faster and help to filter the claims that they should fact-check. And I'm also surprised that your organization is really active. I mean, you will actively contact those journalists and politicians who make false claims and ask them to correct what they said. I think this is really important, and not just let the results of fact checking just stay on the website or stay on the piece of paper. Then I think it's really fascinating. And then also I believe that because our audience are from from around the world, so they would definitely want to hear if you just mentioned that you're trying to make this natural language processing content different languages, not just English. And I think that many people will definitely want to learn if they have the languages that using in their country. For example, like me in Taiwan, I will want to know whether they will have the Chinese version as well. That will be very helpful. All right, so now we're going to invite another guest in the cafe today, Mr. Ethan Chou, to share with us how he used AI to combat disinformation. The floor is yours, Mr. Chou.
Hello, thanks, Ms. Chou. My name is Ethan Chou. I'm the founder of Taiwan AI Labs. So Taiwan AI Labs is the very first open AI research institute in Asia. We focus on human-centered AI research. So right now we are in Taipei. We have about 200 members in our teams. So I will give you a little bit my background. So I was the senior program lead in NIH Human Genome Research. So I went on the very first big data researcher in NIH for human genome. And I'm also the principal data manager after 2006. Like Ms. Chou already mentioned, so I'm the co-founder of the very first search engine in Taiwan. And I funded a building board system that is the very first social network in Taiwan for 28 years. That is also running under nonprofit organization. Therefore, I worked for Microsoft for AI research for more than 11 years. Then I decided to come back to Taiwan and fund the Taiwan AI Lab. So I was a principal data manager in Microsoft. So when you see Microsoft Cortana, this team is actually later become a ChatGPT team in a new team working with OpenAI. The reason Taiwan is very important for misinformation because Taiwan ranks as #1 of foreign government for simulation of false information, which means that every day we have tons of misinformation influence from other countries, and most of them is from our big neighbors. So it's no surprise that Taiwan is at the front line of disinformation war. And during the pandemic, we also found a lot of misinformation happening in Taiwan will also happen in other countries. For example, Taiwan has a misinformation saying we are running out of toilet paper. Then this misinformation will spread out in Japan, cause chaos again, then go to Australia, then cause chaos again. And after March 1st, we see the same misinformation strategy happen in United States after the United States had the very first death case of COVID-19. So on that day, actually, my wife worked in the Evergreen Hospital in Washington State. That is where the very first death case in United States. So I see the misinformation spread out in the Mandarin. Therefore, I go to the QFC store. That is actually a local store in. So my friend in Taiwan said, "Oh, the Washington State is in chaos. People cannot buy food, cannot buy toilet paper because people rush into the store fighting with each other." So those are the pictures I take. So people didn't panic, and they are in order. They didn't even wear masks, and everything, food, toilet paper are in stock. But after the second or first day, we start seeing the Asian people rush into the store, buying out all the toilet paper. Therefore, I wonder how does it happen? So it looks like there's a spread of misinformation that will encourage the Asian population rush into a store, buying all the toilet paper. And after that, the Native American will also rush into a store, buying all the toilet paper. So we trace into the social media. So in Taiwan AI Lab, we have an infrastructure AI agent look into all the social media, including Weibo, Facebook, Twitter, PTT, that is a social network found in Taiwan. Finally, we found out the commander and Weibo. That is very interesting. Whenever this account posts information, there are thousands of accounts will repost this information to all other social medias around the world. That including the information like during the pandemic, the Dr. Taylor saying, Taiwan have the troll account against attacking Dr. Taylor's, who is the Director General in WHO. Therefore, we also go into Twitter and we find a lot of accounts according their behavior. They have a very high behavior similarity. When we say behavior similarity, which means whenever the commanders do something, other accounts will also do the same thing. We call this behavior similarity. And compared to the normal Taiwanese account, they have very little behavior similarity. In terms of content diversity, the troll account, they are keep posting the same content again and again, even in different phases, but after the natural language process, their meaning are the same. Compare on the right-hand side is the organic Taiwanese user. Their content post on Twitter is pretty diverse. So we know on the left-hand side, those accounts are taking WHO, actually they are troll accounts. So we then go further, see what other accounts they follow. So according to what we studied, the troll account that attack WHO, actually they follow Donald Trump, they follow the foreign speaker of PRC government, and also they follow the People Daily, which is the newspaper in mainland China. That's actually Taiwanese doesn't even read those newspapers. Therefore, if you look into the account, those troll accounts follow, we pretty much know this account actually not belong to Taiwan. This account looks like this account is from China. So then we look into how does the social media process the misinformation. When we in year 2018, we know social media when there are a lot of teams doing the fact checking. After the fact checking, the social media will usually take down the misinformation. However, in Taiwan, we noticed a lot of misinformation, like COVID-19 virus originally from UK or from United States. It's actually never been taken down in Taiwanese Facebook. Therefore, we have another project. We evaluate the content censorship bias in Taiwan. We call it Project Routine. So we study in this project, we release an open source plugin in Chrome. So for all the users in Taiwan, they can install this plugin in their Chrome browser. So with this plugin, you can upload the content you got censored from the social media like Facebook. After we gather the content we got censored from Taiwanese user, we actually found out the most frequent term got censored in Taiwanese Facebook is actually China. The second is Taiwan, the third is India. That's very interesting. So we figure out the content censorship mechanism in Taiwan looks like it is not censoring the misinformation or the hate speech. They are censoring the geopolitical censoring content. Therefore, we work with the Taiwan Fact Check Center, and we noticed only 1.6 of the content got censored according to our collect open data set. It belongs to hate speech or misinformation. More than 98% of the content got censored in Taiwan is actually geopolitical censoring the content. That including the content is promoting Taiwan's medical result during the COVID-19, and that is including the foreign leader endorsing Taiwan. That's including the information that talking about the Hong Kong national laws issues, and that including the information telling about the Huawei device issues, and that including the information that talking about the relationship between India and China, and at the same time, this study report we actually published become the academic paper. However, this academic research result cannot be published on Facebook either because it got censored as well. So that is the study we did in 2021. After that, a lot of Taiwanese congressmen, they think like in United States, when they find the issue of Facebook, they will ask the Mark Lasper come to the Congress to do a hearing. Therefore, Taiwan's congressmen also asked Facebook come out in response to what happened according to this study. However, the post by the congressman, like this post, if you try to sum up and using the raw Taiwan AI Labs account, you can actually not sum up on this post. That's very interesting. We found it in Taiwan. Therefore, we look into the news and we found a very interesting news that in 2018, that is by New York Times. It's saying China become a very content censorship become a very big business in China, and Facebook and YouTube they both own a lot of business in China. Therefore, according to our study, we think the content censorship of the Facebook and YouTube, they may outsource into some country that is actually not favoring democracy country like Taiwan. So we present this result in the RightsCon in 2020 2. And we also present this result in the RiseCon 2023. How did we discover the misinformation in Taiwan? Because Taiwan is at the front line of the misinformation, like we already mentioned. So we collect all the news media and all the social media we know in Taiwan, and using the natural language processing and build up this knowledge graph. After we build up this knowledge graph, we know the information manipulation. Before we do the fact checking. So according to the coefficient study, for example, if two accounts appear in the same post, the coincidence, the normal distribution is like this one. If we set a threshold here, we actually found out a lot of very interesting account that is actually troll account. And if we show the activity map, for example, so these are the troll account we discovered compared to a normal account on the right hand side. So if you look into the troll account, they are actually working Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., which means they're working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day on the social network. They are posting information that is going against creating chaos, like you are running out toilet paper, running out egg in Taiwan. And this account, actually there are a lot of troll accounts in Taiwan like this. Therefore, if we aggregate all the activity map, we know those troll accounts actually they focus on posting content at 2 p.m. So in 2 p.m. is actually the time our CDC, the head of our CDC, announced the COVID-19 pandemic response, which means every time we announce some pandemic information, the troll account is actually on the social network. They are waiting for the news and response to the news and create chaos. Try to prevent people from accepting the vaccine, for example. Therefore, after we do this study, we show our report to our neighbor country to show our information to our. Actually, we should also show our information to our friends in UK and in United States. And that was a request they want us to provide the information investigation in Mandarin. Therefore, we build out the platform we call the infodemic.cc. So in this infodemic.cc, you can actually put your information here, and we can check if this information is being manipulated. We don't do the fact checking because fact checking need time, but from the user behavior, we know this information is being manipulated or not by the artificial intelligence. And also, we can show the flow chart how one information, what are the accounts manipulate which topic, what are the strategy, the narratives they are using. So for the Russia-Ukraine war, for example, we actually successful found like about 10% of the Twitter account that ever talk about Ukraine is actually controlled by Russia. And according to our natural language processing, those troll account is actually telling people Ukraine is doing a genocide, is discouraging people from supporting Ukraine, and also is saying that NATO, Americans, United States is actually behind the scene to cause this war. So with this behavior analysis, we know the troll account, and with NLP summarization, then we know what they are talking about and what kind of chaos they are trying to cause. And with this information, we then know what are the major topics happening right now and what are the troll account is contributing to what kind of information. And for one event, for example, we are also be able to know So this, for example, is during the Russia-Ukraine war, what are the major events happening on the Twitter, and what are the troll accounts they are spreading what kind of the information. And we can also compare different platforms like YouTube, Facebook, PTT about the misinformation spreading. So the red line is the information that's spread out by the troll account. And the gray line is the information actually last response by the organic users. So therefore like in at least moments, most of the information on YouTube is actually created by the troll account. But of course, there are some organic users being misleaded here. So in this way, we can clearly know what happened. And for the troll account, when we say they are troll account, there is usually a behavior similarity. So for behavior similarity, the account activity map is for example this Google troll account, they work Monday to Friday, only at 2 p.m. And for the activity, every day they post at a pretty similar time in a very similar amount. So in this way, we have evidence showing the troll account, and we can also track what are the information those troll account is manipulating during the Russia-Ukraine war. So this is this is the information we grouped by 243 troll accounts, for example, during the Russia-Ukraine wars. And after that, if some academic study they want our report, we will help to generate the report. So these are the solid evidence that showing who is manipulating the information online. So in this way, we can educate our people in Taiwan what is happening on the social media. So the next step, we release a tool we call it Miin, N-I-I-N. So with this Miin, we actually release a app on a cell phone, including the iOS and Android platform. So with this app, whenever you receive information, like a couple days ago, there's a Russia radio station got hacked. Although this information is in Mandarin, we can if you are from foreign country, you can see it translated into English, and if label collaboration in this red flag, that means this information is being manipulated by Taiwan Mandarin social media by some troll accounts. So in this way, we know, okay, Russia radio station got hacked is actually this information being manipulated. When you look into the slogan those accounts are using, actually they are trying to discourage people in Taiwan to support Ukraine. They are trying to say Ukraine, they are doing the bad thing, they are doing the genocide, and the Russia-Ukraine war is caused by United States. And in this way, we know those accounts is actually not real users. It's not real organic user. And in this way, we also observe those troll accounts. Not only they are operating the information, misleading people in Taiwan for Taiwan, United States, Ukraine relationship, but they are manipulating information about like Japan, Hong Kong. So with this tool, we deploy in Taiwan. With this app, we deploy in Taiwan. We will encourage not only people in Taiwan using this app to knowing what is happening on the social media, but also we encourage people around the world. If you want to know how the Chinese message is being manipulated, welcome to subscribe this application and welcome to join us. So here is the final page I have. So I will encourage everyone around the world, if we want to fight the misinformation against the situation, we will to share our technology, we will to share our tool, and we will to share our information to you. So join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. I think we learned a lot, particularly people learned that how Taiwan is at the front line facing the information operation from People's Republic of China. And also we are fascinated to see that the Taiwan AI Labs actually share its expertise about AI to other fact check or organization who cares about the correctness of information. So that's a really wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. And so the following session will be a questions and discussions session. So now I'm going to give you some questions, and I'm looking forward to hearing your inspiring answers. So the first question is, I think both of you seeing like millions of disinformation online every day, and I believe that you know that many of them are actually manufactured by using AI. So people are now saying that AI could be one of the factors that worsen the spread of disinformation. And do you agree on that? And if the answer is yes, did you detect any particular model or features about these disinformation manufactured by AI? And if there's a particular feature or models, if we know that, how it could help us to fighting against disinformation? I think let's start from David, okay?
Yeah, thank you. I think, yes, we have been seeing a lot of misinformation. For full fact, I know we recently came across a few fake images that have been created using generative AI, models like DALL-E and Stable Diffusion. Was one of the Pope wearing a puffer jacket, I think, went kind of viral. And yeah, we took the opportunity then to explain to our audience, to ordinary people, to be aware of images that look shocking or funny or whatever, slightly unlikely, to be aware that they could well be AI generated. Most of the work we do is on things like politics and health, and so far we've not seen that much problem with some manipulation of the kind that Izan Tu was talking about, because we do look at social media, we look at things which are trending on Facebook in particular. I'm sure some of that is the relative manipulation, but the harms we're most aware of there are things like scams and people spreading sort of false commercial information, I guess. So we are kind of bracing ourselves. We are aware there's likely to be a big wash of text generated by AI in the coming months and years. So far, we haven't seen a huge amount of that yet. I think my own concern really is coming up towards the next election in the UK. That'll be next year sometime. And yeah, as mentioned earlier, I think there's a concern then that false stories can be generated and spread very rapidly in a very widespread way at a time when it's very hard to combat it. But the last point I'll make at this point is that I think the question highlights the potential asymmetry in new technologies. So technology is often described as being neutral. It's not good or evil, it's just technology. But we've seen with the launch of things like ChatGPT, people can very easily create thousands of false messages, all pushing the same agenda, trying to manipulate public opinion. And that's come very easy. Whereas combating that is no easier than it was before. There's no equivalent tool to help us find that disinformation. And so there's this kind of asymmetry that comes over and over again. For example, this sort of recently was in education, when suddenly now students are using ChatGPT to write essays for them and hand those in as coursework. And lecturers and professors sending the coursework have no tools to detect that. So there's this huge asymmetry that the technology is being used in bad ways with no easy way to push back against that.
Thank you for reflecting to what's going on now because of the appearance and invention of ChatGPT. There do have some impacts that we have to deal with now. So what about Mr. Tu? Can you please use 5 minutes to share your perspective?
Yeah, I believe after we have this kind of the large language model, that will be uphill battle against the misinformation, because generating the misinformation that looks like real is actually pretty difficult right now because you have ChatGPT. I already mentioned I own Microsoft Cortana product before. So in my team, we used to have a product called TAY, but we deploy on the Twitter for only 1 day. Then we take down because it has hate speech, it has discrimination, and it also create misinformation. Therefore, we are not able to stand behind this AI agent. However, I think this time because ChatGPT is released by OpenAI, therefore the legal risk is not that high. But the issue is the same. A lot of the statement ChatGPT created is actually not true. And you can also leverage ChatGPT to to create a false story that looks very real. However, it doesn't exist at all. So there are a couple of observations we found in Taiwan as well. So according to our study, like in PTT, after you register, you need to file the registration form. And in the past, the system operator will leverage how you write your essay, like to decide if you are a real user or not. But now, because we have ChatGPT, we have a stable diffusion. You can create a photo like real, and you can create your bio like real. Therefore, there's no way we can use manual screening to screen our users' registration. That was also the reason PTT in Taiwan, we actually suspend for 2 years. We did not allow new users to register after we have cell phone confirmation registration. And also in the Facebook, we also see a rising of troll account that we see a lot of profile picture is actually created by AI. So you see a lot of beautiful ladies. They try to invite you as a friend, but actually those ladies are not real, and they are trying to encourage Taiwanese user to join a private line group. After you join that private line group, they will keep spreading you misinformation. But actually, because that's private line group, so we have a little methodology to detect them after they bring our user into the private channels. So we did see the AI chatbot is already using on the social media. They talk with you. They create a very real profile. They have their social. If you look into their timeline, it looks like a real person. They keep having photos, but those accounts, after we detect it, according to our study, they are still true accounts, and there are a lot of them. Like in every election, we will see a rising number of the troll account. So I would say there are some methodology. For example, right now we have some methodology to detect a deepfake image not created by AI. But for any methodology you can detect, we can also train AI to to overwhelm the AI algorithm that can detect it. Therefore, I would say it's like a rather the cat racing. So we have approach to detect the AI generated content and AI generated photo. However, once we know how to detect the generated site, they will also upgrade the AI algorithm to to generate that can cheat us. Yeah, so I would say in the future, probably you will not able to believe what you see on the social media, and I think there are already a lot of people thinking about putting a regulation how to control this generative AI for helping spreading the misinformation. But I actually don't know how will that goes. Okay.
Can I just come in on that point? I think it's a very interesting point you raised about soon we won't be able to trust social media posts because it'll all be fake. I think that's true. I think also that many websites will also have fake content produced by GPT or other tools, which means that if you just go to a search engine, you go to Google now, certainly next year, and you do some genuine query trying to find out, is this vaccine safe or is this candidate genuine? You have no guarantee that the answers you get will be generated by a human or by a machine. And so trusting that basic research on the internet that we've all been relying on for the last 30 years, that's going to get much harder next year or so, which is deeply concerning to me. A big worry.
Thank both of you to share with us this very honest feedback about the risk that generative AI already brings. I think that's very important because everybody is using that and everybody thinks it's super convenient. But at the same time, we should have proper understandings about the risk of it. Then we can suggest the government to move toward the right directions to regulate it and harness its impact, but at the same time keep the space for innovation as well. So I think now we got some questions from the audience. So I will firstly read these questions, and if there's any other audience who still have questions, then I will read them following that. But if there's not yet more questions, I will just keep asking the question. So now we got one question from Ms. Chen Naijia, and she said that it's a very you both of you make a very interesting presentations, and her question is about trust. It seems like trust is at stake in the current era. So she wonders for both FUFAC and Taiwan AI Labs, what have your organization done to remain trustworthy or build trust with audience and stakeholders? And I believe this has very much to do to the users of your project or service. So is there any one of you want to answer these questions first, or just assign someone? Okay, I think let's let David go first.
Okay. Yeah, I think at full fact, trust is absolutely crucial to us. Our take, when we write articles, we are saying, here are the facts, here's the context, make your own mind up. And that only works if the audience actually do trust us to be honest and to be complete in our sharing of facts. And in the political landscape in particular, this is perhaps most obvious in that we are very careful to not be biased towards or against any political party. So, for example, as a charity, we are governed by a board of trustees. I think there's about 8 people or so who sort of supervise us, and we're very careful to make sure that they are representative of different political parties in the UK. We don't take funding from anyone who's political. We take any large donation is publicly listed on our website, so there's no sort of secret donors who may influence us. And we list all of our donations there. And so, yeah, we take every step not just to be unbiased, but to show that we are unbiased politically. And we rely on experts who we then name and say, this professor or this doctor then told us these things. This is a report we're basing our opinions on. So all the information is available then to our audience to make their own minds up again. I think if we lost the trust of our audience, then we would basically cease to exist. We couldn't serve the audience if they didn't trust us. And so one time I would give this a major concern of ours was during the last general election, so 2 years ago now, one of the political parties on Twitter changed their profile, the logo and the name, so it looked as if they were in fact a fact-checking organisation in a debate just a week or so before the election. So the audience would think this was a fact-check in the UK, not us, but another fact-check in the UK, giving this opinion about the debate, because actually it was entirely skewed towards one party, not the other one. And this caused a lot of concern. So our chief executive went on TV the next day to say, this is outrageous. This is a political party deliberately undermining trust in fact-checking as a neutral process. And actually that generated a lot of publicity for us and brought in some more money. Lots of people wanted to donate money to our cause because they shared that concern that political parties, they can use propaganda, they can put out their own articles, that's fine, but they can't start imitating neutral fact-checkers or journalists, because that just undermines the whole process of democracy. So the trust is very, very important to us.
Thank you, David. I think that you just mentioned a very important point. No matter it's a NGO, a charity, or a company, at least there's a governance group like board members, then it really helps to help people to identify whether this organization is a true one or a false one. I think other than technology, that's how the current democracy system, civil society can help us to build up the trust and also help us to identify who is saying the truth. So I think that's very important information that you mentioned. And what about your answer, Mr.
And I think trust, there are a couple aspects. I think what Chet just mentioned about the society aspect. So in Taiwan AI Lab, we actually have a track, we call it trustworthy AI computing, and that is related to responsible AI. So when we say trustworthy computing or responsible AI, we usually want to make sure the platform or the social media algorithm we use is transparent, which means is explainable to user. Also, not only explainable, but also need to traceable. For example, if you build an AI algorithm based on the data, how do you collect the data? What is your cohort? How do you label? Where do you? Who are the experts who sign off your labeling? For example, who are the judge? And what is your evaluation of your algorithm results? So these are the one part of trustworthy computing. We want to make sure the algorithm we apply to our users is understandable, is traceable. And at the same time, it should be verifiable, which means we should be able to validate the AI algorithm is applied to general publics. So I just mentioned that we evaluate the Facebook censorship. It's actually pretty biased. It's censoring the critical sensitive content, however, it keeps the false information on Facebook platform in Taiwan for a year, didn't take it down. So how do you evaluate, how do you validate your algorithm or your process? That is also one interesting point. So in Taiwan AI Lab, we work closely with our government. So for any algorithm that will may impact to our society, may impact to our democracy, it should be validated. Especially social media is maybe a one we should be very careful, because we think social media is a public forum, but actually it's not public. It's a profitable center, which means they try to polarize people on the social media and make profit out of the ads. And the more false information on the social media, the more hate speech on the social media actually create more revenue and more engagement. So that is actually, we cannot treat the social media as a public forum, but if we want the social media take a responsibility as a public forum, what should be the regulation? So that will be a lot of questions afterward. That's not under my radar. The final one we talk about is the auditable, which means like a Tesla claim they can do autonomous driving in United States, but if they do the autonomous driving in Taiwan, is that safe? Tesla say it's safe. How do you know? And once it has car accident, how do you audit it again? So that's an auditable problem. So when we talk about the responsible AI, these four aspects we should take care: explainable, traceable, verifiable, and auditable. That's why we are talking in Taiwan. So trust is a big issue right now. Actually, AI is one of the issues that cause trustworthy issue. Therefore, the trustworthy computing and the trustworthy technology will become more important in the future. And that is actually the reason we funded Taiwan AI Lab under the non-profit, non-government organization. We don't listen to Wall Street. We listen to human center. And we try to develop the technology based on the human and for the human. So maybe that's what I can say about that. I would say it's a big issue right now. It's not an easy question, but I'm glad that people bring it up.
Thank you, Mr. Tu, for sharing with us the paradigm of and the direction of development of AIs, of different roads to develop AI systems. I think that's very helpful because for people without technology background, it's really hard to, we know the risk of AI, but we don't know how we can propose to the government what kind of ideal model of AIs that we want to develop. So thank you very much for indicating the very essential principle of responsible AI. And there's a lot of debate on how we can develop our AI models, no matter on internet or in academic, like people propose trustworthy AI or responsible AI. And I recommend every audience here to trying to maybe just simply Google that to understand that there's actually different paradigm and model of AI, not just one. And we have to understand that because if we don't understand that, then the AI development will be just controlled by maybe enterprises or maybe governments. Yeah. So there's not yet new question in the chat box. So so I will just keep asking. We just explore the risk of generative AI tools, and people start being aware that there will be challenges and problems that the ChatGPT or other kind of generative AI tools will bring. Then people will still think about debating, okay, so now are we better abandon all kinds of AI tools, or let's just stop all the research and development of AIs? And I ask this because now we are facing, if we call the people who maliciously spread disinformation, if they are the bad guys, and we, the good guys, want to defend ourselves and fighting against them. But if at this point of time we don't have AI was taken away from our hands, would that put us in a very disadvantaged status, or that will make us lose the fight? And I want to hear about your thoughts. So I think Mr. Tu has talked for 5 minutes, and maybe David, you want to go first?
Okay. It is a challenge to make sure that AI, there's a level playing field. That, as you said, that the bad guys have access to these AI tools, and how can we as good guys, catch up with that? It is a challenge. I don't think there was a famous letter circulated recently about whether we should pause AI research for 6 months, or whether we should abandon all models after ChatGPT 4 or something else. And I'm slightly skeptical of that approach. I think that, just in practical terms, what does it mean to stop researching or stop using these tools? That there are, let's say, tens of thousands of people around the world who have the skills and the resources to train up a large language model, to fine-tune them, to deploy them in different ways. the technology is one of the most remarkable things about these models is that they are in fact very easy to deploy. Something that you can run on a laptop. You don't need huge resources. And so the idea you can just put the genie back in the bottle and say, right, that's a mistake. Let's not do that anymore. It's out there now. I don't know of any practical way of doing that. I don't think any government organisation, even the US government, couldn't tell Silicon Valley, right, stop doing AI now. Even if they could do, I'm not sure it's a good thing to do. So I think instead we should carry on having these kind of conversations and trying to work out how do we educate people so everyone understands what the output of AI looks like. It can be hard to recognise, at least to recognise that content you're reading on social media, websites, whatever, it may be generated by a machine. Images maybe, videos maybe. We haven't mentioned deepfakes yet, but just because you can see and hear somebody talking doesn't mean it's really that person saying anything. I think that kind of media literacy, just to bring people up to date, to say yes, things do keep changing, but you can't necessarily trust something just because it's on Facebook, just because it's even on what looks like a genuine news website, or even is on a genuine news website, because even they make mistakes sometimes. So I think media literacy helps. I think the good guys, the fact checkers, the civic organisation groups should be making use of AI wherever they can do to push back against this. And a lot of this is already routine. We mentioned already using search engines. Most search engines are driven by AI. So if you're searching for the truth about something, that's AI. Using things like reverse image search to see, is this image fake or not? Is it correctly attributed or not? Again, using AI to find out the original source of an image, to counter misinformation that way. We use AI for transcribing speeches made by politicians or debates for later analysis, making it much easier to process. We use AI for translating tools. So if I see content, I don't speak Chinese. If I see content in Chinese, I can translate it though using Google AI, and instantly I see it in English. Good enough translation. And so as misinformation travels across borders, it can be tracked by people in different countries. So we can use AI for good. We already are using it almost without thinking about it, I think, in many places. So even if we can't necessarily instantly spot and reject sort of ChatGPT generated content, we can at least track, how it's being spread. Mr. was explaining earlier about looking at, this kind of inauthentic behaviour and coordinated trolls and things. Again, that's using AI to find find the bad guys, I guess. And so I think we need to carefully embrace technology where we can do, regulate it where that's appropriate, which is very, very hard, and just basically be aware of these as issues going forward for all of society, really.
Thank you, Debbie, for giving a very realistic answer. I think, we cannot stop the AI tools being researched or developed. And we're actually also using AI tools to help us to do fact checking. But I think you indicated a very important point. It's about providing more media literacy. Then when most of the people are correctly educated about the correct awareness about AI, then it will help them to use AI properly, and it can reduce the risk of AI. So and I think we can wait to hear about the feedback from Mr. Zhu.
Okay. I still remember. So when ChatGPT being released, I was interviewed by Voice of America, VOA. One of the big thing is big issue is misinformation, and also people worry about should we continue develop the tool like ChatGPT. So even the technical people, like people who graduate with computer science degree, they also surprised by how powerful it is. For example, if you use ChatGPT to find a job, you don't need to know how to write a program, but you can pass an interview of Amazon. Which means the artificial intelligence can write a program in a very, very sophisticated way. So my previous research team in Microsoft, like Microsoft Research, Peter Lee, they actually published a report. What they did is after Microsoft and OpenAI developed ChatGPT-4, they actually spent 7 months to evaluate the risk. I think for all the regulation, we talk about how to regulate AI is how we can how we can know the risk of the artificial intelligence. However, from those report, it said you can see actually we evaluate how strength of the ChatGPT-4 is, like including the news like Microsoft saying ChatGPT-4 is an AGI, that artificial general intelligence initial model. But still, although Microsoft evaluated for months, but they still decide to release it. I think the technology right now, we are not able to stop it from developing. Like Elon Musk ever mentioned, he wants people to start developing ChatGPT, but he himself still sponsor a team to do the ChatGPT, which means whoever say, "Oh, you please stop," but the bad guy level, the good guy, the bad guy level still keep developing. That so I would say, if you think you are a good guy, you should use AI, because the bad guy will still use AI if you don't use it. So like a misinformation, you already see the democracy is attacked by the misinformation. Now, what can we do under what the good guys side? One thing is what we did, how we can use artificial intelligence to defend from this information manipulation. The other thing is maybe when we talk about deepfake, they are creating fake news. How is there a big real? Can we leverage the AI to spread out the real news? So we also have some discussion with the medias in Taiwan, how we can leverage artificial intelligence to do the podcast more efficiently, to create the news more efficiently. So there are a lot of discussion right now. Yeah, so yeah, so from my point of view, we will never stop it. There will be a lot of issue right now, but like at the very beginning of the internet, there are a lot of fraud in commerce, but later on people find out a way. so that including the new system applying to the new economy, and also the digital literacy David just mentioned. We need to educate people how to. In the past, you are able to use the voice and your face to identify a person, but in the future you should not, because your voice can be learned by the AI. Your face can also be learned by the AI. So this kind of digital literacy, I think that will be the top priority right now. At least then people know what the technology can do right now. Be careful and seeing any information you feel emotional. Try to check it first. Check with full check before you are angry. I think this kind of digital literacy need to be there, and also I think we need to embrace the artificial intelligence. We should work with traditional social media, traditional news media, to transform, to equip them with the AI technology. That's what I think.
Thank you, Ethan, for providing also a very useful suggestions about maybe we should addressing these new challenges of AI. Maybe we should renew the content of media literacy, because it's obviously we need new method or new knowledge to help people to identify what is true and what is fake one manufactured by AI. And I very much agree what you said, that more and more in AI knowledge technology should be provided to traditional media or social media or people who want to fight against disinformation. Then we can equip ourselves to fight against disinformation. So we really have a very inspiring talk. And so now it's only 10 minutes before we end this event. So I encourage all the audience, if you want to ask the questions, please type that in the chat. And so I'll just keep asking my questions. I think we talk about how civil society can use AI as a tool to defend democracy, but there's a reality that learning AI or deploying AI are not very cheap. For example, I remember I was trying to register for an AI class, but I found out the price is really high. And I, as a worker working in the foundation and organizations about democracy advocacy, and I cannot imagine if there's also other NGOs who might have less resource, but they want to know AI, but I don't think anybody can, not many people can afford to learn AI by paying so much. So the price is so high. So that's why today I want to take advantage of event to ask both of you if today you're going to help these democracy activists and advocates, what will the most important 2 terms or 3 terms about AI in your mind that you think they should understand, that they should know? It can be a kind of technology, or it can be just a key terms that you think democracy advocates really should know more about those. I think this time let's start from Ethan.
Okay. Okay, I would say of course the very first thing is you say 2 terms. Of course, ChatGPT you need to know and you need to try it, but at least there's a free version of ChatGPT, you can try it. So you need to know how powerful the language model is right now. In this way, you know how to create. Maybe you can also create a fake news through this practice. In this way, you will be more aware of the information you know. The second 2, I think. So usually when I talk to if I talk to my father, I will say ChatGPT, you should try. The second one will be Midjourney. You should create a photo image by AI. So after you play around Midjourney, so next time when you see an invitation from a beautiful lady, you don't need to trust it, because if the lady is too beautiful, 90% of them are created by AI, usually on the Facebook. Yeah, so I would say for digital literacy, the way I educate my friends, my parents, I will just introduce the tool and ask them to use, and tell them, so what will be the risk if the bad guy using this tool, so be aware of that. So that would be what I tell my friends. Yes, and of course, if you are interested about the fact check, if you are interested about the information manipulation, download the app developed by Taiwan AI Labs, that's a meeting and the infodemics. That's what I will tell our friends. And of course, here around the world, if you are interested in the misinformation tool we are doing, join us, let me know, so we can collaborate. Yeah.
Thank you, Ethan. I really appreciate this kind of suggestion of trying these tools, because really, just like what you said, trying this tool can help us to understand the impact of it. And I think the same questions, we would also like to know the answer from Davey as well.
Yeah, I know, first of all, I echo Ethan's point that yes, everyone should try out these tools. ChatGPT is an amazing tool to use. If you've not had a chance yet, do go to the website. It is free. Play around with it. Having said that, I think also there is a risk of people overestimating the power of these tools. We call them AI, and that word has changed meaning a lot recently, over the last decade or two. I think it's worth stressing that these are not actually intelligent. They have no understanding of the real world. They don't even try to understand the world. They're just not very good at predicting which word will come next in a sentence, or saying how likely a particular sentence is to be formed. And it turns out that's a very powerful thing to do. And there's very, well, an old concept in computing, go back to the 60s, I think, the ELIZA effect. So you may have heard about ELIZA. Was one of the first chatbots that was produced. And it was a very, very simple tool. And basically, you could ask it a question, and it would ask you a simple question, and it would basically would rephrase your answer back to you as another question. But what's amazing is that people using it would be very quickly convinced that they were speaking to an intelligent agent, a person or a machine that was intelligent. Because I think the reason for this partly is that as humans, we have spent tens of thousands of years talking to other human beings and nothing else. So when we see words coming at us from the screen, we assume they come from another human being. And it's very easy, therefore, to assume that ChatGPT and its models are talking to us, that they're intelligent, where actually they're not. It's our brain inferring that intelligence, which isn't really there. So I think myself, I guess the good news in some ways I would like to tell the audience is that, yes, these tools are powerful. Yes, they can be misused to undermine democracy and spread hate and so on. But also, they are just tools. That they are, in the same category as spelling checkers and grammar checkers and translation tools. They're useful tools for manipulating language, and we should be aware of those and fight back against their misuse. But we shouldn't pretend that they're actually intelligent, because they're not, frankly.
Thank you, David. I think that's also very practical feedback. I think because Ethan just shared with us the projects about from Taiwan AI Labs, the main app, and also Project Blueprint, and also InfoDev website. I think I heard that the Bluefact also provides data science training for civil society members. And would you like to use 2 or 3 minutes to introduce that? Because I believe many audience will be interested.
Yes, so there's a couple of things we provide at Bluefact. One is we do provide training to help journalists, politicians, civil organisations to understand data better, to help people to read technical reports, to understand statistics. So we provide training courses, often online, and our tools themselves, the tools I was describing in my talk earlier, we are increasingly making those available, again, primarily to fact checkers and other small organisations. Currently English and French. We're hopefully working on Arabic later this year. Next year, we still have funding from google.org to continue that work in other languages. So if anybody's interested in getting a free trial, please do get in touch. Actually, my colleague, my boss, Andy Dudfield, is currently in Seoul in South Korea at the moment for the Global Fact Conference. It's a long shot. If anyone happens to be in Seoul, please get in touch with him. Otherwise, drop us an email and we can arrange a video call, a demonstration, and maybe a free trial of our tools.
Thank you, David, for sharing this really useful information. I hope that many democracy advocates can benefit from that.
Please do.
Okay, so I think this is really wonderful, and thank you, Ethan, for posting the URL. And I think later, if you are still interested in the projects of both of the speakers, you can just type the keywords in Google, and you will be able to find a lot of information because they are reputable organizations. So I think today we really have a very inspiring and very knowledgeable conversations, and we talk about how to have a proper attitude and understandings about AI. I think that's very, very important for general public. So I want to thank you again for attending this event today, and I hope that the audience who participate in this event today, you can keep thinking about debating in your mind that how should I probably use AI to benefit myself but not causing damage to people or human rights or democracy. So thank you all of you, and I wish to see you all in the next episode of Innovation for Democracy Café. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.